fools.
Balrogs Blastbeats for another week. The Nerdiest podcast that ever there was, the coolest of the uncool, as someone on Twitter or Instagram or somewhere on the internet.
some kind
said.
of social.
A title we were bequeathed.
But just a reason for three nerds to get together and talk all things nerd, whether that be nerding out on metal or video games or manga or T1000, as the case is going to be shortly. But I am one of your hosts, Joshua Redbeard.
I'm Margy. I have a cat on my shoulder.
I'm Grant, and as you can see, I'm in a different room yet again.
Wow.
Your hair is
exciting.
out.
Yes, my hair is out, which is as rare as me being in a different
Majestic.
room. 2 different rooms, 2 episodes with the hair down. Yeah, 2 for 2, I guess.
Glorious.
What a time to be alive.
As always, we're going to bring us into the nerdiest thing of the week. The nerdiest thing I've done this week is watch a movie called Snakes on a Train. Now, you might confuse that for Snakes on a Plane. Came
I don't
out.
see the similarity.
It came out about 4 weeks apart, and essentially, it's introduced me to the phenomena of the mockbuster. So, in the first couple, I think it might even be the first episode. Josh was talking about a movie called Stakeland that came out at a similar time called Zombieland. They're like, "Oh yeah, it's really weird. I wonder why it happens." Well, I fucking know why it happens now. So essentially, there's these companies that make B movies that have a 4-week lead time and generally $1 million budget, just flat rate. And the idea is to just put it in cinemas the week before a big popular movie is going to come out, so people will go see it and just capitalize on that popularity and then make their
So
money
smart.
back. So
when
the
you
trailers,
said mockbuster,
Oh, yeah.
I thought you meant like Video Easy.
Nah.
That's a joke for you. Don't get that. You're too young.
Actually, yeah, I do. I'm not that young.
You're young whippersnapper. Yeah. So tell me more about these mockbusters.
So mockbusters are basically the trailer for a popular movie will come out, and then like a couple weeks before the movie's about to be released, a B movie company will go, "Oh, that looks really good. It's going to be very, people are really interested in this movie. Let's make our own, slim classic idea." And they just 4 weeks, they smash out an entire movie, and then all of a sudden it's on the screens. Snakes on a Train, no Samuel L. Jackson, pretty disappointed. But you get snakes, you get snakes, you get weird like witch doctors from Mexico that are throwing up snakes everywhere, and it's people are turning into zombies. Not what I signed up for. It was an interesting movie.
I just feel like if you're on a train, there's always emergency brakes, and then you could just smash a window and get out.
No, the train driver dies. It dies immediately. Yeah, no, it's you think
but there's still an emergency brake.
No, there's not. Not
on like
there.
on a B movie scale though. Like, is it a good B movie or is it a like?
Oh, it was awful. Yeah.
Does it feature Jerry Seinfeld?
No,
that kind of B movie.
But yeah, after that, I had to look up some other notable mockbusters. So in 2007, there was a movie released called Transmorphers, which was obviously supposed to be Transformers. And
Spoonerism Central.
All the people that went to see that would probably be really disappointed because of the massive lack of Michael Bay explosions.
I want to see that movie so badly.
Yeah.
Can we just cancel the podcast so I
As
can
we go watch Transmorphers? There's Atlantic Rim, which is obviously a ripoff of Pacific Rim, which is also like a secret, really, really good movie. I didn't want to watch it because I thought it'd be cheesy, but Pacific Rim is a fantastic film.
I really like Pacific Rim.
Does it have Godzilla in it, or am I imagining that?
No, but it's a similar kind of vibe, like fighting kaijus. So it's like kind of derived from that Godzilla type stuff.
Godzilla.
Then we got Android Cop from 2014, which is supposed to come out at the same time as RoboCop reboot. But Android Cop actually has Michael J. White in it, which is he's a pretty prolific like martial arts movie action star. So I thought that was weird. We got Rise of the Zombies in 2012, which came out at the same time as World War Z, which has Danny Trejo in it.
Amazing.
Which I thought was insane.
Oh my god.
We got Triassic World instead of Jurassic World.
Oh,
Was
I
it scientifically
kinda-
more accurate to say, well, actually, these dinosaurs appeared in the Triassic era instead of the Jurassic era?
We had
Period.
Aliens versus Avatars, which is basically 2 James Cameron movies rolled into one.
Amazing.
And then last off, we had Chop Kick Panda. If anyone's seen Kung Fu Panda, there was Chop Kick Panda, which I'm sure was
Amazing.
awful.
I need to watch all of these films now.
I think we should start a movie night. Also,
absolutely.
I looked up Triassic period dinosaurs because that's how I
you're a
roll.
nerd.
And there's one called Gajirasaurus. Fuck yeah!
Perfect.
Oh,
So-
it's sick.
Next year, we're going to get Atlantic Rim versus Triassic World. Can't wait for it. It's going to be fantastic.
Oh my god, I would watch that. I'm
Yeah.
shocked that there's B movie companies. How has this never occurred to me before? Like,
Yeah,
the-
it's just schlockfest.
yeah, like is that something that you want to brand yourself as? Like, we're a B movie company.
I think they make bank. I think they actually make
Yeah.
good return on these garbage films. I don't know how. Anyway, Margy, like, what's the nerdiest thing you've done this week?
Oh, I got a Wheel of Time tattoo.
Ooh.
Yeah, it's pretty bad that I'm that much of a nerd. Yes, I'm a whole. I can't get it at a camera. Yeah, it's close. You can kind of see it there. Okay. It's got the Wheel of Time motif of the snake eating its own tail in the figure 8 with the wheel, and then it's got the dragon underneath it, and which is really funny because no one knows what. They're like, what's a dragon? They're like, I guess that thing on the banner's a dragon because no one knows what a dragon is in the books. It's funny. Anyway, so my 14 book dedication to that series and my obsession with it, which took a long time to get over. Like, I had withdrawals when I finished those books. It was really bad. Like, I was severely upset once they left my life. So there you go. I commemorated it. I showed my friends who are Wheel of Time nerds, and they were like, that's fucking so nerdy, but it's so cool. And yeah, it's a big fucker as well. Shout out to Aiden Thomas, tattoo artist, who's amazing. He travels around Australia and does different guest spots. He's at AYDEN dot or something Thomas. I don't know, fucking look him up on Instagram. But he does real sick trad work, and thanks to him for putting up with me being like, right, so I want this thing, it's from a book, and he's just like, Jesus Christ, you fucking nerd. So yeah, but commemorative, and it was over scars, which not fun. Wouldn't recommend. It feels very gritty. In case you were wondering. No, thank you. Joshy, how you been nerding out this week?
I have been binging real hard into a new podcast. So when I put a call out like late last year, I wanted to listen to some new podcasts and got a whole bunch of like really sick suggestions. Like Lex Friedman's podcast, which I talked about last year, his episode with like Todd Howard and stuff was phenomenal. But another one that was suggested by like 5 or 6 different people was a podcast called Dungeons and Daddies, which as they stress at the start of the podcast is not a BDSM podcast, although they do have an episode where it sort of becomes a BDSM podcast.
Fantastic.
Nominative determinism.
Pretty much.
Well, your name determines what happens. They did it to themselves.
It is exactly what happened in one episode. But it's brilliant because it's sort of like the cheeky younger brother of Critical Role. Like Critical Role is sort of like, you know, the peak of Dungeons and Dragons. It's taken seriously. It's all that kind of stuff. Whereas Dungeons and Dragons,
and they have voice actors. Like,
yeah, I mean, like Dungeons and Daddies has some like people from the industry and whatnot, but it's very much taking the piss. And so the story behind it is it's about 4 dads from our world who are taking their sons. So it's like there's 5 sons because there's a set of twins in there, and taking them to this soccer game, and they're all in this Honda Odyssey, and they're driving down a road,
the
and
car
they
is
fall.
important.
Yeah, they fall through because it gets brought up so much throughout the whole podcast.
That it's a
That's
specifically a Honda
specifically
Odyssey.
a Honda Odyssey.
What color?
I can't remember.
It's probably gold. They're always that light gold color.
Yeah, that's the color of Honda Odyssey I picture. But they're driving down a road, and all of a sudden they drive through this portal and end up in the Forgotten Realms. And then the fathers wake up and their sons are gone, so they're on a mission to go to find their sons. And it's just like the fucking hijinks that they get up to, like. The dads are all like the stereotypical, like kind of crap dads. There's like the all-American dad. There's the emotionally detached stepfather. There's the rock and roll bard who's a massive stoner and his son's a stoner too, even though the kid's like 13 and he's so stoked about it. And there's like a massive hippie. The hippie is the father of the twins. The twins are called Lark and Sparrow.
Oh,
and
jeez.
yeah. And it's like it's funny because they have all these stupid interactions with the real world. Like they still have their mobile phones in them, so they call their wives back in the real world and shit.
Yeah, the soccer game's going great.
It's so entertaining. Like if you've never, it's kind of thing that like even if you're not a fan of Dungeons and Dragons, you could listen to and just enjoy. Like I've literally had almost had so many car accidents because I drive around listening to it, and I just start pissing myself laughing as I'm like turning a blind corner or something. But it's phenomenal. It's so funny. It is just great. Like every week, I put links to all the nerdiest things in the show notes down below. So if you want to go and check it out, it'll be in the show notes below. But I'm 33 episodes deep into this thing now, and I think it's like 3 seasons. I'm still only on the first season, but there's like 3 seasons. And they do like. Good. They do an offshoot one-shot episode based in the Call of Cthulhu game setup about like the guys like grandfathers or grandfathers. And it's so funny. So I've been nerding out.
Dungeons
really
and
hard.
Granddaddies.
Dungeons.
Yeah,
and Granddaddies.
I've been fiending. I love podcasts where I can learn stuff, and I've been listening to Do Go On a lot, which is like really popular amongst people. They're like, it's so funny. I'm like, there's some funny bits, but like, you know, like when people like write into the podcast and they're like, I was laughing so hard I nearly crashed my car. I'm like I've chuckled. I've never laughed that hard like crashed my car. Like
listen to Dungeons and Daddies and then let me know if you would have crashed your car.
Someone's got to buy me a car first. No, yeah. I'm imagining. No, it's one of those little plastic kids' cars. One of those like little plastic ones that you pedal around. I'll get one and see if there's any accidents reported in Northcote.
Or we'll just get you a PlayStation with like Gran Turismo, and you can play Gran Turismo while listening, and then just
see if you crash or not.
The problem is that I'm always bad at driving video games. I can't even do Mario Kart. Like I always end up going backwards. It's really bad. They're like, you're going the wrong way. I'm like, how?
That's impressive. I think that's a skill that has nothing to do with driving. I think it's a sense of direction issue.
It's right. I like that you admit that you're not good at Mario Kart though, because the amount of people who say that they're good at Mario Kart is ridiculous. And I've raced a lot of them in Mario Kart, and none of them are actually that good. And so I call out people who are just like, "Oh, you'll never beat me in Mario Kart." I was like, "I fucking will," because
I'm normally I'm normally pretty good at Street Fighter though, because I can just button mash there, and because there's so many combos, button mashing normally works out. So I'm like,
it's all fun and games until you run into a juggler in Street Fighter, and then it's just you just get knocked in the air once. So it's just like. It's all you get knocked out. But yeah, I have this one group of friends that are all like insanely good at Mario Kart, and they're like, "Oh, you want to play?" I'm like, "Fuck no, I don't want to play." Like, what fun is that? Like, you guys play this all the time. Like, you're like in leaderboards and stuff, and I'm like, I play it when I'm here. And the one time I did go there, I somehow ended up coming back with someone else's Joy-Con that was fucked. So now I can't sneak in Zelda. So no, I'm not playing Mario Kart.
Yeah, we played it at a bar once, and all my mates had finished, and they had time to go get drinks, come sit back down, and be like, "How you going?" I'm like, "Okay, I'm on to my final lap now," and they're just like, "What the fuck?" Like, it's like they just were like, "Let's just end the game and go from there. We know who won." Like,
I don't know if you saw. I might have sent it into the group chat. I can't even remember, but there was a video that came out the other day of an SNL skit because Pedro Pascal hosted Saturday Night Live last week, and so they did like a skit about like HBO turning another video game into like a gritty video game sequel, and it was for Mario Kart. It was like him as Mario, and it's brilliant. It was so funny. Like, and he just did it so well. I took it so seriously. It's just like taking the piss. It was just.
It's nearly like he's a good actor or something. It's weird.
He's
Yeah, he's
fucking
a
amazing.
weapon. I love him.
Yeah, he's so funny. Like half my like Instagram suggested feed is just like videos of him calling himself daddy, and I'm like, yes, daddy, I'm here for you, daddy. It's
Like,
fine, daddy.
Daddy. Yeah, we're all here for it.
I was honestly like, when I was watching Game of Thrones years ago, I was so devastated when he got killed by the mountain. I'm like, you had him, bro. You had him
Whoa,
on the ropes.
spoilers! What the fuck?
We'll figure it out.
Yeah, I was gonna.
Everyone dies.
Yeah, if you haven't seen The Mountain the Viper, then we can't help you at this stage.
Yeah, just that, like the explosion of the gore onto the face. It's embedded in my
What a-
memory. And then that
what a
chick
fucking
scream.
episode.
Oh, where she's just like, it's like, oh, what a scream. Now that should be a Wilhelm scream.
Very true. But we're going to move in to the medium beat for this week, and this week we're giving an award for Nerd of the Week. And Nerd of the Week this week is going to a doctor from Carnegie Mellon University by the name of Dr. Carmel Majidi. Now you may have seen again, it was a little video going around like Facebook and Instagram and whatnot. And if you just saw the video, you'd be fucking terrified because the short version is the TLDR is that Carmel Majidi and his team made T1000 a reality.
Yeah.
Right. And what, like, it's a little video of like a metal Lego man behind like a set of prison bars, and then he literally melts, comes through the bars, and then rearranges himself again back into Lego Man. And it's, when you look into this, it's actually fucking incredible what they did. So they created a mix of metals. It's Margy's going to remember the name of it because I forgot it again.
What? It's like an alloy.
It's like an alloy of metals, I think.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's made up of liquid metal gallium and microscopic pieces of magnetic material made of neodymium, iron, and boron. And then it's put under different magnetic fields. And so in certain magnetic fields, it's a solid, and others it's a liquid, which enables it to do some really, really cool things. Obviously, the T1000 part of it was, quite hype, and that was what everyone got excited. But, and I'll link to a really good article all about it in the show notes as well. But the other applications for this are actually fucking really, really impressive. Like, my favorite is there's a video in this article which shows it's like a circuit board and a place at one side of it where a light's supposed to go. And then there's just like an LED light and two bits of this metal at the other one. And the two bits of metal pick up the LED light, walk it to the fitting for the LED, and then liquefy themselves, go into the solder mold, and then solidify themselves as well. And then the fucking light turns on.
It's so cool that it works with electronics too, because the biggest thing with electronics is magnetic fields. Like, you put a magnetic field into an electrical circuit, and something weird could happen, but it works, and that's so fucking cool. Like,
it's amazing. It's amazing. Yeah. And they're like, they've talked about like health benefits. They've still got to do more research into like the health application side of things. But yeah, they use the experiment in a fake stomach of like liquefying it. It goes into the stomach. It wraps itself around an object in the stomach, and then they pull it out using the magnets. And so the health, the scientific benefits that are possible with technology like this are actually incredible. They're
and
actually
the spying
really, really cool.
things. You could just melt something and send it. Next thing you know, North Korea is going to be sending fucking liquid bits just across to America.
Old of you to assume they could afford that.
Yeah.
But also, like, I have to give them a shout out as well, because they could have like not done the T1000 part. And I think a lot of people probably wouldn't have noticed this, but because specifically they did something that they knew was going to get that social media attention, like people were going to share it on Facebook, they were going to share it on Instagram. So like, holy crap, look at this. Like they plays to the strengths of the world we live in.
Yeah, I was gonna say the terrifying future of marketing science.
And it's really
marketing
cool that
nerds.
They did it with metals as well. So it is neodymium, I will just say, not neodymium, but that was really close. So I was very impressed with that. But so I've got a friend who, during their PhD, they were researching polymers. So polymers are big chains of organic molecules stuck together, like what plastics are polymer. So there you go, for example. But these ones would change their structure based on light. So like if you shone a light onto it, they would change their structure and it would change the surface. So like there's so many cool applications, like, you know, like all the evolution that we get in, like, you know, plasma screen TVs and stuff, that all comes from organic photonics and electronics. So doing kind of like what they did with the metals, but doing it with organic molecules instead, like carbon based. So it's just like this huge field, and it's really cool that they did it with metal though, because like I just would have expected it to be done with a polymer first. So like science checking in, very cool, Bateman. That's my summary.
But yeah, shout out to Kalman Majidi and his team. Did some freaking incredible work, and yeah, like the applications.
Oh, and the graphical abstract. Don't forget the graphical abstract.
Yeah, there is a graphical abstract, which I'll also put in the show notes as well, because Margy was very, very excited about that.
For those who don't know what it is, an abstract is where you have to write a boring part at the start of your scientific paper, like this aimed to research the blah blah blah, and then we found this and blah blah. And a graphical abstract kind of summarizes your key findings in a drawing. For some fields of science, it works really well. For some, it doesn't. And a lot of the time, scientists are not artists. So I'll just leave it there. But it's always fun to look at graphical abstracts.
It 100% is. Yeah, in this particular graphical abstract, they use a sea cucumber. I'll just leave it there.
It's a poo with a smiley face.
There's a poo with a smiley face, but it's technically a sea cucumber.
One and the same, darling.
Yeah, absolutely. Pretty much. But shout out to Kalman Majidi and his whole team for, doing some very, very cool science and presenting it in a smart way. Because I mean, it's depressing that it has to be delivered this way to get people's attention, but it was just smart. It was so smart.
That's the world we live in, baby.
100%.
So I guess if we're talking about science, we can go on to the main topic of today, and we're going to talk about the science of metal. Also, we're talking about the
gallium.
Ironically, we were just talking about the science of metal.
Yeah, I know, but now we're going to talk about the science of metal, audio style. So, as you could probably guess, there's someone here that really likes science, and they've probably done a lot of notes about it. So, Margy, what can you tell us about the science of metal, seeing as you're our resident scientist?
So, there's a few things I want to say about scientific research and heavy metal, because it's gone through a lot of bias and misunderstanding in the research. So, first of all, metal came in with a bad rap, you know, late 80s, 90s, satanic panic kind of stuff going on. So there were a lot of there was pre-existing prejudice, you know, going into it. And there's like paper that I found a paper elaborating on the moral panics genre of heavy music research. And it's just stuff like that. It's like, you know, the fact that people now can study the moral panic that people were studying, like, it's stupid. And none of it's impartial. Like, here's a paper from 1993: heavy metal music preference, delinquent friends, social control, and delinquency. Like, that's what they're talking about. You know, and then as an aftermath of this, there's a lot of research into heavy music listening and trigger warning, talking about suicidality in patients. So I'm going to avoid that word from here on out, but consider this a trigger warning. I've generally avoided it, but it may get mentioned casually. So I'm going to take Kurt Vonnegut's lead, and I'm going to call it going to China instead of the S word. So, but yeah, throw on a good heavy album if it's getting to you, and that always helps. But yeah, people love studying going to China and heavy metal and devil worship, and it'll result in satanic rituals, and you'll go to China. And even though there's no evidence, the Mental Health Foundation emphatically states that to support the belief this self-harming behavior may be an integral part of particular youth subculture, there's no evidence of it. There is no evidence that.
I can also say that I've been into heavy metal for 24 years now, and I have never once been involved in a satanic ritual, and I'm kind of upset about that.
Yeah.
Oh, I
Also-
did not invite you last week. Sorry.
it's just real hard
Rude,
to nip
man.
over to Tassie. What the fuck? Yeah, look,
What do you think I came
goat
down here
blood's
for?
goat blood's hard to get your hands on. Let's just say that.
I mean,
I've
as
actually
a vegan, I would prefer like fake goat's blood if that's
Yeah, well, that's why I
okay.
didn't invite you. You know, and you know the forest ain't thick enough up there. That's why I had to come down here.
yeah, you could get some real weird stuff. If you find a Tasmanian tiger, tell me. Also, I've participated in a heavy music listening study because when I did a psych subject in undergrad, part of your course credits come from being a participant in research studies, which is hilarious.
A guinea pig.
Yeah. But so I did one with heavy music listening and they chose the music for me. Like, I'm not a huge Metallica fan and they played me Metallica to like see what my mood was like afterwards and stuff. And I was like, yeah, that's not going to have the same dopamine hit as if you throw in Converge or something. Like, why the fuck are you playing me like shit Metallica? So it's really misunderstood in the research that heavy metal isn't just like, oh, you like
all the
Black
same.
Sabbath. It's all the same. You know, it's huge and you can like, there are so many different genres within it. And some people only like kind of doom metal, for example, or something. And like, and if you played them something that was really upbeat, high tempo, tech death metal, they'd be like, this isn't like, so it's really hard to study.
It's kind
unless-
of like saying that everyone that likes Daft Punk must love Avicii.
Yeah, it's like,
It's not
Yeah.
even it's electronic music, but is nowhere near the same realm.
True.
yeah. And then there's also studies where it's like metal makes you angry. And I found a lot of these, like aggression is caused by heavy metal music. But they don't study heavy metal listeners. They just play it to fucking normies and they play them all. They play them and like the different control groups are, you know, the different groups all play different kinds of music. And they're like, the heavy metal one got the angriest. I'm like, yeah, if I play heavy metal in front of my parents, they fucking crack the shits. So like, you know, and so it's stuff like that. So like if you're not a metalhead, like maybe, yeah. And also, I just want to say there is a shit ton of research out there on heavy metal. So I will always gladly revisit this. There is even research on like the gender in metal subcultures and stuff on mosh pits and dancing in metal, which is funny. They call moshing dancing.
I mean, it is like realistically.
Yeah, it's
They
so
don't-
funny.
People want to be tough and not admit it, but it is just dancing.
Oh my god. So yeah, so there's a lot here. So we had some kind of key talking points to go through, but I found a really good one that I kind of want to start off with, a really good paper. So what's changing in the world of research is that third generation metalheads, you know, like it's not like they've just discovered metal and they're researching it. Like now there are people getting into adulthood and who are adults who are now doing first generation metal scholarship. So you are a metalhead and you're researching it. So I like this quote from a paper where, in some ways, this could be taken as one more sign of the domestication of metal, metalheads turning an analytical and critical gaze on their own scene. Almost all of the current scholars in the field are metalheads themselves.
I mean, that's
I
it.
just
It's
love
like
it.
that. Thinking about the amount of like science nerds that I know, they're all metalheads. Every one of them.
Yeah, my mate who does that polymer research with the light activated stuff, massive metalhead. He's got hair
Right.
down to his ass and just ties it up in a bun. Hi, Lewis. So sorry, Dr. Chambers. So
Doctor.
So I did find this paper of titled Going to China, Self-Harm and Survival Strategies in Contemporary Heavy Metal Music, a Cultural and Literary Analysis. And I liked this because it wasn't just treating heavy metal as a monolith. It was looking into it was more looking at like the literary side of things and the cultural side of things that accompany the heavy music. So it actually acknowledges the amount of research into going to China that is out there. And I highly recommend reading this if you have access to scientific articles, or I can download the PDF and send it to you. Fuck you. Privatized education. Thanks, UniMelb. It recognizes that research that's focused on the link between heavy metal music and adolescent alienation, self-destructive behaviors, self-harm, and going to China, and it's all focused on that. And it's saying that that research has been criticized, often by metalheads, as systematically neglecting to explore in a meaningful way the psychosocial Slipknot reference benefits for individuals who both listen to contemporary heavy music and socialize in associated groups. So it's not looking at the bigger picture. It's just going like, oh, you like this, you're depressed, So the authors argue that notions of survival, strength, community, and rebellion are key themes in contemporary heavy music. And then they go into a full lyrical analysis. They argue that listening to this type of music, the accompanying social relationships, the sense of solidarity, and even the type of dancing can reduce tumultuous and difficult emotions. Songs which could be read as negative can induce feelings of relief through the sense that someone else has felt the same or a particular way, and that they've recovered enough to transform these emotions into a creative outlet. So it's a sign of hope, and then it really goes for it. There's a section titled where they do all the lyrical analysis called Slipknot, Strength, Suffering, and Survival. And it analyzes lyrics. So this paper's from 2006. Analyzes lyrics from Trivium's Dying in Your Arms.
Good song. Good
and In
song.
Flames, Take This Life.
Yeah. That's
Yeah.
That's going to be a rough one, though, on the lyrical front.
Yeah, but like, because there is like a, in both of those songs, there's like a kind of wanting to die sort of motif plus like a lighter motif later. It kind of, I don't know, like they argue it really well. And here's a really good breakdown of Slipknot lyrics. They go into it a lot. So stick this in your pipe and smoke it. Like Wait and Bleed, Duality discusses notions of pain, both existential and circumstantial throughout. Opening with a slow rumbling and cold tone from Taylor, I push my fingers into my yeah, you can't read it. It's the only thing that slowly stops the ache, and it's made of all the things I have to take. The line ends on a roar from Taylor, and the music erupts. The last line is repeated throughout the chorus with the addition of "I'm not going to make it," echoing the theme of being on precipice of life and death, survival, and going to China, as in Wait and Bleed. Yet again here, the pain can be interpreted as being transformed into anger and turned outwards in parts, specified towards unspecified others. You cannot kill what you did not create, but I've got to say what I've got to say. Then I swear I'll go away, but I can't promise you'll enjoy the noise. If you like, you guys all know the words to the song. A tone of survival can be seen with, again, a promise that it's what is about to come may not be what the listener wants to hear, but it's not only for the individual, like the video as well has like a theme of strength and survival within a specific community of fans and followers of the band. And it's just really, it just argues it really well. And like, it's a really good way of going, yeah, I know there are, in some cases of metal, lyrics that talk about death and stuff and that they help, but also kind of nice that, there's like an analysis that says it actually doesn't make you feel bad. Like,
yeah, but it's really good as well that they're focusing on like the social sciences part of it, because obviously that's been left off a lot. Like if you just like take this bit of evidence and this bit of evidence but don't put it into context, like, the first thing that came up when I was looking for science, like studies about it, was there was a study saying that heavy music fans are at greater risk of substance abuse and self-harm. But it doesn't really, if you don't add in the social side of that, it's kind of like, to anyone who's in the scene, it's like, it's obvious which one came first, and the chicken and the egg.
I was going to say, I think it's people that were troubled found music, not people listened to the music and went, oh shit, this makes me feel awful, I'm going to keep on listening to it. Like, how ridiculous is that?
Exactly. So, I was sad way before I found metal.
I was depressed heaps before metal, but like, so there's a guy who kind of wrote a book which kind of says like heavy metal is going to make everyone delinquents and stuff. But the findings in one of his papers from 1991, they played youth who already listened to heavy metal. So they were already heavy metal listeners. They played the youth the metal, and when they were angry, like if you get the youth angrified, because I don't know, teenagers are full of emotions, you get them angry.
Damn you kids.
Youths. You play the metal, and then the music had the effect of making them less angry. So this guy wrote a book on like all of this kind of stuff. He was one of the ones who was all into delinquency, but they found out that, oh my God, if you play heavy music to a teenager who's angry, it calms them down. It's cathartic. And he still published it, and you're like, but you wrote a book about how it causes all that behavior.
You disproved your own theory while writing your book.
like and also in the study it found that other factors like parental attachment and supervision, intelligence, control, and so on contribute to youth delinquency. So it's like there is no link. This is because that's back in the 90s.
Yeah. D&D,
Yeah.
is the devil, so what can you do?
Yeah. Low self-esteem and heavy music listening. There's a theory that people with relatively low self-esteem are drawn to heavy music because the style of music allows for a purge of negative emotions. The catharsis provided by heavy metal may, in turn, help boost self-worth and promote positive self-evaluations in those with low self-esteem. That's a nice little finding.
I also think like an interesting thing, like going back to the lyrics, like say you're talking about like take this life like by in flames and trivium and dying in your arms. Even that lyrical content is kind of a trend in itself. Like from that time, those kinds of bands had those kinds of lyrics. Like there's every chance that the band, that's just written because that's what those bands write music about, not because it has any bearing on like even Cannibal Corpse. There's a reason why bands these days write like heavy death metal bands write lyrics like that. It's because that's what death metal is. It's a part of the genre. Not that any of it means that. It just that's what it is.
Yeah.
I don't mean to interrupt, Grant, but are you suggesting that Cannibal Corpse does not cum blood? Like, is that?
What
Really
he
what
might. He might. I can't disprove that.
Just want to be clear on that. Like, it is possible that Corpse Grinder does cum blood. We are not 100% sure, but it also could just be a song name.
I found a really dumb study that they were trying to figure out if music with violent lyrics caused aggressive behavior in males, and they played the Blood Meat and Limb from Limb by Protest the Hero. They were the violent lyrical content. The non-violent ones were Bounce, Old School Hollywood, and IEAIEO by System of a Down. But the whole design was flawed because it didn't take into account the listening preferences within the genre. So it was playing it to metalheads, but like, I don't know, some people you play them System of a Down and they're like, and they didn't take into account shit like tempo, rhythm, tone, timbre, the breakdown factor. Like, will that increase fury if you're like, about to throw down?
It's easier to hear the lyrics in a System of a Down song than it is to hear the lyrics in a Protest the Hero song.
Also, how do you measure anger? Like,
well,
what is the metric?
So what they were doing is, so they conclusively said at the start of this paper that music with angry lyrics increases anger in men. So they took saliva samples before and after the experiment so that they could measure the testosterone levels. And I was like, fantastic, that's really sound. They fucked up the storage of the saliva samples. So they measured how much hot sauce the participants put into water before and after listening. And I was like, why would you like that? That's the worst metric ever. Or he's putting a lot of hot sauce into that cup of water that he's going to drink. And you're like, I would do it just to spite them for it. Like, you want me to drink chili water? Righto.
So the more angry I am, the more chili water I have to have, which in turn makes me more angry because maybe I don't want fucking chili water at that present time.
Yeah. And maybe I don't feel like listening to Protest the Hero in a room full of fucking weebs. I don't know.
Who the fuck drinks chili water?
Like, I was like, give him ways
to test.
Give him a burger and be like, put some chili sauce on this and measure it. No, it's but anyway,
hey guys, you want some homemade mace?
I found, here's a nice little one. Here's just a little tidbit of information. Consumption of heavy media, which is anything that is non-escapist, complex, deep, challenging, negative, or darker. So that includes heavy metal and like alternative music, is found to increase during times of better economic stability. So people like metal more when there's money. That's nice.
I was gonna say I know a lot of broke metalheads as well.
Yeah, exactly. Maybe that's why.
I find that interesting because, like, you'd see like some of the biggest metal bands of our time have probably come from adversity. Like, I'd say, I'm probably mostly thinking of Rammstein. Like, half of them growing up in West Berlin, half of them in East Berlin, and then kind of a meeting after that. And like the adversity that comes from that is like where this, I would say, this artistic flair comes from. Like same as like Black Sabbath, the fact that he cut his own fingertips off forced him to play slower, which invented a new and lower, which invented a new style. Like, it was from necessity. It wasn't because that's what he wanted to
Exactly.
do.
Yeah.
So I feel like maybe there's more
He
metal
didn't want to
music.
cut his fingers off. That's
Nah,
weird.
yeah. I'd say maybe there's more metal music when the money is good, because people have more free time because they don't have to worry about going to get money.
But it's
Whereas if you have
consumption.
to choose,
Yeah.
if you have to choose between living and making music, there's only a few that are going to pick making music, and most people are going to choose to want to eat.
I've chosen
like in terms of
poverty and making music. I can say that.
I like to joke a lot with like the bands on my record label as well. It's just like, if we were in this to make money, we picked the wrong genre.
Oh,
Like,
absolutely, yeah.
We really picked. I know how much like kids making hip hop make versus kids in metal bands, and Jesus Christ, like there is so much more money to be made in hip hop and pop and dance music.
Oh my god, yeah.
We're in this for the cash. We made a terrible choice somewhere along the way.
Yeah.
Do you want to know some trends amongst metalheads in terms
I
of
fucking love the
behaviors?
trends. I do.
A 2013 study showed that metalheads had a higher openness to experience, more negative attitudes towards authority, had lower self-esteem, a greater need for uniqueness, and lower religiosity, which is really cool. So
Yes. You are missing, Margy, though, the most important fact about metalheads in terms
that we're
of
hot.
the things that I mean, very hot, and that also kind of leans
I
into
am
this.
sweaty. Yeah.
Is we are apparently the most likely genre to have had a sexual encounter in a car.
Well, that's sick. I've all I got is that heavy metal fans are more Machiavellian, less needful of cognition, more likely to show machismo, and to make higher estimates of antisocial behavior as a population as a whole. Yeah.
I found a study that was like to do with like music preferences and how you drive your car, and it was like to experience road rage, number 1 was rap, number 2 was reggae, number 3 was pop. To go
Reggae.
reggae number 2 in terms of road rage. Go 15 miles over the speed limit was rap, and then pop, and then oldies. To not use a turn signal was Latin, classical, and then heavy metal. So we're just below classical users in terms of not using heavy metal. But though we were actually tied for 4th with religious music. So swings and roundabouts. But yeah, to have a sexual encounter in a car, it's heavy metal, oldies, and then hip hop. So we are number 1 in terms of fucking in cars.
Is that because, like, being a community of people that enjoy music, we decide that we spend a lot of our time in our moving music box that plays music?
That's all that a car is.
It could be that. It 100% could be that.
Hey, babe, check out my 6 sound system. And then, that's a panty dropper, right?
And then the car falls apart around it.
Yeah.
Oh, no, gentle. Old Bessie, not too good with the
Yeah, we're going to turn the sub down.
There's a lot of good
always.
There's a lot of good studies though around in terms of something that I think we can all relate to in this podcast anyway, in terms of like neurodivergence and heavy metal, and like why, especially like ADHD in particular, in terms of enjoying heavy metal. And there was a lot of studies and like talking to people as well. So it wasn't as quantifiable as this and this and this, but like it seems that experience shows is that like it's the same reason why if there's one thing to do, we don't do it. But if there's 50 things to do, we 100% do it. It's because our brains seem to need stuff at a higher level. And so when it comes to like pop music, we don't really gravitate towards it because of the simplicity. But the more spurgy we become, the more we need our music to be like more layers to it, which I mean also explains why like prog nerds are insufferable, is because they are the most spurgy and the most neurodivergent. Like it really actually does explain. You kind of watch just kind of like, yeah, you kind of get to that, it's that, metal level, and then it's that tech metal level, and then it's that fucking chaotic metal level, and then it's fucking prog nerds, and we pass on those.
Well, like there's a lot of studies on autism and autistic musicality. So they investigate stuff like the importance of absolute pitch, like perception of patterns and sequences, and linguistic perception. So obviously, like autistic people are more likely to find patterns in things. I know because I've just seen the psychiatrist, and that was like, do you sense a lot of patterns in things? I was like, oh no, I know I'm autistic. I'm here for the ADHD diagnosis. Give me meds. He won't give me meds because I'm too depressed. Fucking hell. Anyway, and the pitch of something. So and I found a really good quote where from an autistic researcher who wrote a review paper. And he said this: I believe my status as a spectral listener, it predisposed me to the sound of heavy metal. I perceive not two distinct tones, but a massive singular sound fused through the interaction of magnified spectral properties. So when you're on the spectrum, higher senses. If the sound of heavy metal riffs awakened a sense of vitality and power, virtuosic guitar solos as well offered me dazzling streams of scales and arpeggios that seemed to blur the individuality of each note and create wildly expressive and free gestures. Yeah.
I like
And
that.
That makes sense
yeah.
to me because I feel like the thing I get most from music, especially when I listen to heavy music, is energy. So like that's
Yeah.
what kind of the reason why I really like it. Like people are like, oh, don't you hate that you can't understand lyrics? I'm like, I could not care about what the lyrics are. I could not care less. It's got nothing to do with it. I just like the speed and the energy that comes from it. That's why I listen to music that's probably too fast.
I find it does calm me down though. And I did look into the research kind of metal and catharsis and stuff, which obviously there isn't a lot on because people still think that heavy metal makes you angry, and there's only just now being researched that's like maybe we should play heavy metal to people who like heavy metal and see what it does. But I found a paper that's called "The Memory Remains: How Heavy Metal Fans Buffer Against Death." Heavy metal music is often associated with death and dying by non-fans, whereas members of this subculture report that listening to metal music is their escape from depression and even helpful against death-related thoughts. Metal music can be seen as cultural good for fans and thereby can form part of their social identity. And then it goes into something called the terror management theory, which is metal, where self-esteem and your cultural worldview serve as a symbolic two-part system against the fear of death. And they found that fans of heavy metal had no need to increase their cultural worldview after the induction of mortality salience, which is also a great title. Mortality salience is reminding someone that they're going to die and their own mortality. So they found that we don't need any extra boosting after after being reminded that we're going to die because we're already pretty chill with it. And they found that they also didn't need any self-esteem supports necessary. So it showed, whereas other people did. So in each of these instances, metalheads were heaps cooler with mortality salience than non-metalheads. We were like, I'm gonna die, sick. And they studied cancer patients as well. And they spoke to cancer patients who had used music to cope with their illness. And some of the heavy metal listeners, there were heavy metal listeners in the study, and one of them had childhood cancer and got an ongoing disability for the rest of her life. And she said the aggressiveness was good because everything felt so unfair. Children are not supposed to think about death. Music is so alive and it has so much comfort in it. I listened to aggressive music during the time I felt angry. It was good. It was pleasant to show your feelings through music. And and then another one in her 20s, was saying that she was so depressed after her diagnosis that she couldn't do anything. And she bought some heavy metal CDs and they helped her see her life and her situation differently. It's it had this really bleak quote. I began to realize that it's no problem that I have no dream, no ambition, and no goals anymore. That it was even good that I didn't see any special meaning with my life.
But that's 100% it, because I think a lot of our scene and the reason why we love our scene is the community of the scene. It's finding people that sound like us, that feel like us, that that hurt, that think, that dream like us. And so yeah, it is that thing. It's like once you find out you're not alone, it kind of doesn't matter. I mean, obviously it still matters that you're depressed, but it doesn't matter as much because there are other people that feel like I do, which makes your feelings validated. It makes you feel okay in some sort of weird way, even if it is fucking miserable at the same time. At least we're miserable together.
Well, I was in the car the other day with some of my mates and they were talking about Phoebe Bridgers and I was like, I don't really like Phoebe Bridgers, not really my jam. And they were like, oh, she's so good. You got to listen to her when you're sad. And I'm like, no, when I'm sad, I listen to things I put on something that I know and that I love and that just has beat downs. And I'm just like, oh, and they were like, that sounds no. Like, but yeah, but they study shit like this, like a study on adolescent psychiatric inpatients. So they're in the inpatient unit, they're teenage psych patients. If they already liked listening to heavy metal, and they were played heavy metal, they were allowed to listen to it. It resulted in a positive affect change, which means their physical and their way of interacting with the world was positive affect. So like good. They weren't withdrawn, they were more outgoing. And anger in extreme music listeners aged 18 to 34. So looking at anger in heavy music, extreme music did not make angry participants angrier. Rather, it appeared to match their physiological arousal and result in an increase of positive emotions. It may represent a healthy way of processing anger for these listeners.
I don't know. Heavy music definitely makes me aroused. So I feel that.
Gee, I can't listen to some stuff without just getting a big old boner. But like, it's just so interesting that like it does have all of this sort of cathartic effect, and it's shown like, because music therapy is a thing, right? So if you don't know what music therapy is, you either play it or you listen to music and you use it that way. And it draws a person's attention away from negative stimuli, and it's more pleasant and encouraging as a stimulus. So like for Grant, it gives you energy. It's an encouraging, it's a good stimulus. And I found a study that just kind of proves that music therapy is great for improving mood. And I found a playlist of standardized anxiety reducing songs. So none of them are metal, but I just found it really interesting that it's got shit like Tycho and Sigur Rós. And I was like, this is a legit research, like published author paper on music to reduce anxiety. So I'll have to link that in the show notes because I found that really funny. I don't know why it was so funny. And
I
another
don't even know
one,
what kind of music Tycho is. Like Sigur Rós, I guess I could kind of understand it. It was like the more ethereal sort of stuff, like that sort of like Zen sounding stuff. But
turns
I've not
out
even heard of any of those artists
you
or
don't know Sigur
bands.
Rós.
No.
Jesus, they're the
the dude that
Icelandic
plays the
guys.
guitar with a
and goes,
violin
"Whoa, whoa, whoa,
thing.
whoa."
Both.
Nah, it doesn't sound my vibe.
That was my best Icelandic. I did add, but not all studies rely on brain stuff. I found one that's peak nerd. You could tell it was done by metalheads who are computer scientists. It's titled Scream Detection in Heavy Music, published in 2022. It uses computer science and music informatics. And it looks at the harsh vocal effects such as screams or growls are far more common in heavy metal vocals than the traditionally sung vocal, or as my parents say, rah, rah, rah music. This paper explores the problem of detection and classification of extreme vocal techniques in heavy metal music, specifically the identification of different scream techniques. And they define stuff like extreme vocal effects. So growls, fry screams, rough vocals. And I found the playlist that they used, that they ran through and used language processing on. And it's got some fucking bangers in there. After the Burial, Behemoth, Children of Bodom, Decapitated, Gojira, In Flames, Lamb of God, Opeth, Rings of Saturn, Suicide Silence, Thy Art is Murder, and Veil of Maya.
All amazing voices.
Yeah, I know. I was like, they chose some real fucking good vocalists. But for Parkway Drive, they chose Carry On as the song. And I was like, I mean,
I guess it's because it has that epic
Carry On. Yeah, it's but I get it.
There's probably better vocal songs for Parkway Drive, but I guess that's a very cathartic scream, that one.
Yeah. But to those people who did that study, I'm assuming you're nerds and you're metalheads. So reach out. Let's collab. Speaking of the spectrum, hi. Welcome to. Yeah. Like, did you find anything else about spectrum or neurodivergence in music listening, Josh?
I mean, like, I found some. I mean, like, I don't think it's interesting. It's like it becomes obvious as soon as you say like the list of people that are diagnosed with ADHD, autism on the spectrum. Brody Dahl, Kurt Cobain, Dave Grohl,
Margy
Ozzy
Noble.
Osbourne, Margy Noble. Yeah. But they're like people like Dave Grohl makes perfect sense. Like when you watch videos with him and you see him talk about his brain process and what he's kind of go through. Like he's an interesting person to watch when it talks about his process for writing music and the way he comes up with things. And I guess like in terms of his drive and how he kind of does things against the grain, like what he did recently with fucking, what was the name of that heavy metal band he just did for the fucking film? Something
I
weird.
can't
Oh,
remember. But the
yeah,
like-
but he did the thing. Yeah.
Yeah, but like
did
yeah,
the thing with the people.
did the thing with the thing and did the thing with the people and stuff. It's something Widow. I can't remember. But yeah,
Death Widow.
if you go back and watch interviews with him with the understanding in mind of just like, oh, he's on the spectrum, so much of his process makes so much more sense, and like so much of like why he is who he is and how he's done what he's done.
Maybe Ozzy Osbourne isn't drug fucked, but he's just got ADHD because he's always like, Sharon, where are my keys? And she's like, you're holding them. And he's like, like, that's such an ADHD thing. Jesus.
Probably a bit of both. It's 100% probably a bit of both.
It's definitely a bit of both.
I mean, the drugs have definitely made a mark.
yeah, they absolutely have not helped that situation
No.
whatsoever.
If you do have ADHD, you're more predisposed towards addiction and addictive behaviors, though. So that's.
But it's I guess like it comes back to what I was saying earlier as well. Like I think like in terms of neurodivergence, like we're always looking for that community that understands us. We're looking for, like as my therapist like to says, I've spent my life looking for my tribe, as she calls it, and it is.
Oh my god, do we have the
very
same
much-
psychologist? Mine always talks about tribe as well. Is her name Karen?
No, mine's Cheryl. Mine's Cheryl.
Well, Cheryl
no.
and Karen should meet.
Cheryl and Karen should probably meet. But yeah, there is.
I mean, they probably went to the same school. They probably learned the same method.
Probably.
Sorry to peel back the curtain.
Listen, I've been in the music industry for a very, very long time, and I have been in every single different scene there is. I've experienced them all, and I've never found a community like the heavy metal community, because there is a very big sense of tribalism, and there is a very big sense of community that doesn't exist in a lot of other genres, to be completely honest. It's very individualistic when especially in like hip hop, the dance music scenes and stuff like that. Like it's I mean, even like country music, when you listen to country music, it's very much like I'm on my own, I do this all by myself. Whereas like a lot of alternative music, like heavy metal to a certain extent, but maybe more like
Alt.
pop punk, post-hardcore kind of stuff is very much like we're in this together. Like there is even like lyrically
United we
speaking.
stand, together we fall. Like kind of shit like that.
Exactly. And that's I think that's another like link in the ladder, as again, as my therapist would say, fuck, I'm gonna turn this into a therapy session. But like it's another link between the two. We really do. It is that sense of community and belonging and togetherness, because when we're born, we're growing up and we don't feel like we fit in. And so I think in terms of us finding it, I mean again, it's a social science thing, but it very much is the fact that we have a better community. Like we really
100%. And like that comes down to the personality of it. Like so metalheads show a preference for intensity, variety, complexity, and the unconventionality that exists within alternative music. And because we're more open-minded, we may become disinterested in mainstream or conventional music forms, especially as we grow older, and that may in turn lead us to seek out genres that are unconventional by standards of mainstream cultures. And we have that because we have that greater need for uniqueness of not just being, I like mainstream music and stuff, and like looking for that. Like, so I think individuality ends up being a lot more respected in the alternative music space. Like weirdness and that kind of individuality's really there. And also, most of us have got intense dissatisfaction with authority. So that kind of ties us all together, which is nice. And but it's there's so much to it, and there's so much dumb research out there, and there's so much good research. And you could find anything. You could find out, some studies have shown that teenagers who listen and college age students who listen to heavy metal are more depressed. And I'm like, yeah, all right. Like,
you mean depressed people listen to heavy metal?
Yeah, maybe it's that way around. Like,
no.
They worship Satan because they listen to heavy metal, and they're all going to kill us.
No,
like,
Josh, they're different. We must ostracize them.
Fair.
Guys, we must ostracize, darling. And yeah, but but I'm really interested for, I think, what's going to come in heavy metal research, and using, like, because I think it's just such a unique culture that exists within heavy metal fans and listeners and stuff. So I think I'm really excited to look at, for people to start exploring the music therapy and stuff for metalheads, and like, is metal just our music therapy? Do we just listen to this heavy shit because it is our music therapy and we've found something that fucking scratches that itch? Like, is that why we play heavy music? Because, like, as musicians, like, do we just enjoy it more and it is that catharsis for us? Like,
It ain't for the money.
it ain't for the money.
You could get into like a terrifying question around free speech. Oh, not free speech, freedom of free will. With that, where it's like, am I only listening to heavy music because I'm like, if I was just content with life and didn't have any issues, would I still be listening to this music? Like, is it the pressures of life that are making me listen to this music? And if we removed all of those, what would I be listening to? Am I who I am because I choose to be, or because these pressures of life are pushing me into this direction? Because all that has an effect on me. I technically don't have free will because I'm not choosing to do that. I am being conditioned to do that. And now I'm going to hurt my brain thinking about
Which
that.
would be also ironic with
God.
the usual hate of authority by people who like this
And
music.
it's like the want for individuality within metalheads, and then you're just like, well, you're only here because you have to be.
Yeah, because I remember a friend of mine once talking about how, like, they were talking about how they really like shaving their legs, but they felt bad because it's like, it's the patriarchy. But I'm like, but if you like doing it, are you doing it because you like it, or are you doing it because like society told you to do it? And if you like doing it, does it matter that society told you to do it? Like, is it your free will? Does it matter? Like, just like people telling you to shave your legs so you don't want to do it, but you actually like doing it. Like, where is the definition of free? And you apply it to heavy metal as well. It's just like, yeah, I was depressed first and then I found it and now I'm happy. So if I stop listening to it, well, I become depressed again, and therefore I don't choose to listen to it. I have to listen to it.
Oh
My
God.
brain hurts.
We have to.
Oh, no.
We're junkies. We're all fucking addicts. Well, I, for one, only shave my legs when they get like about 2 inches long and I can feel them blowing in the wind. That's my cutoff point, personally. So
Fair.
You do you, yeah.
Yeah,
It's a
I've never
it's a
shaved my
dense
legs, but that's
thicket.
just there.
I can't do it without cutting myself. It's bloody dangerous. It's a dangerous job. It's a young man's game, that stuff.
Well, Margy, we appreciate you doing all the science that you do.
Science Corner.
Yeah, Science Corner with Margy. Shout out to you, because there was a lot of interesting research in there, and I'm sure we only scratched the surface of how much you actually
Did.
got into understanding.
Yeah, you've seen my notes. You know there's pages of it.
There is
Oh.
pages and pages and pages. But yeah, dear listener, we'll link to a bunch of the research in the show notes. The show notes are probably going to be quite long in this one because I've got a whole bunch of stuff to link to as well. But it sounds like something we're going to have to revisit down the track as well.
100%. I'm going to be setting up that Google notification, but for Google Scholar, whenever like heavy metal research gets published.
Well, I mean, it'd be sick to get like some of those researchers involved in this conversation. We can kind of dig deep a little bit more into their research. And by that, I mean, me and Grant will sit here silently while you just pick two scientists' like brains, and we're just nodding.
I want to get the people who did the hot sauce water. I want to get those people on, so we could just be like, why?
What the fuck is wrong with you?
What is wrong with you?
I love it. But dear listener, we're going to move in to the final beat for this episode, and it's a bit of a good one this week. We're going into a make it so. Yeah, I'm pretty excited for this one. You know, it's a bit topical at the moment because obviously The Last of Us is playing at the moment, and it's fucking amazing on every single level. And so we're gonna. This topic is make it so, and the question is, which video game deserves its own film or television adaptation? Grant, let's start with you because Margy's spoken enough for today.
I was gonna go with Dead Space, but I feel like it's such an obvious option and is probably going to happen anyway. So I dug a little deeper into the same genre, And I thought I would like to see a film about. Have you ever played Fear before?
No, but I've heard about it.
Yeah, so it's
Sounds
Fear.
scary.
It's an acronym. It's First Encounter Assault Recon. It's kind of like it's a first-person shooter, but it's not like it's got those elements, but it's actually like a atmospheric psychological horror game inspired by a lot of Japanese horror. So it's inspired by Ringu, or as we know, The Ring, Ju-on, as we know, The Grudge, The Eye, and it also has a lot of like cyberpunky dystopian elements from Akira, which is basically the godfather of modern anime that we see now, and that whole style.
Was
And
that the game that like the first level of it like doesn't actually have any enemies in it? Is that the shooter I'm thinking of?
It does near the end. Yeah. It's like for the most of it, you're just basically just walking through this, and you're just having these wild, like psychological experiences, and you don't know what's happening. Turns
Yeah.
out, so essentially, the idea is you're like sent to this facility to go after this operative who's gone rogue, who is a psychic. And what you find out is the facility, they're actually creating what is called replicas, which are clones that are basically brain dead, but they're telepathically controlled. So they just got no free will, and they're supposed to be controlled by these psychic operatives. And then as you delve further into the game, you find out that all the replicas are made from the same genetic code of a psychic young girl named Alma, who basically looks like all those horrible things from The Ring, The Grudge, all mixed into one. She's a terrifying little child. And they just employ like the horror and suspense is perfectly. Like they're almost seeing everything, like never long enough on the screen or explained enough to lose your interest, because you're like, oh, I wonder what this and that is, but they never show you enough to answer the questions either. They leave you in that perfect sweet spot of ambiguity and content of actually being able to see it, but not knowing
That's
what's
good.
happening. Is this reality? Am I imagining this because she's a psychic? So I think that would make a fantastic film. And especially, I think the second game is even better, but obviously you'd have to have the first one, because in the second game, she's like fully grown up and like this city's been nuked and just tearing the place. It's sick. It's really good games.
That sounds sick.
I think when I get my internet going at the new place, it'd probably be the game that I'm going to start streaming, because I haven't played it in years. So I think that'd be
hell yeah.
good for content.
Nice.
How about
Yeah.
you, Margy? What game would you be picking?
So honorable mention for Outer Wilds, because my bandmates from Plovers are obsessed with it. And so, because I was sick of being like, the fuck are you guys talking about? I got the full plot rundown from the one who's finished it. And I think it would be a good, dark space adventure movie concept, because there's time loop, there's nuclear, there's like the end of the universe kind of explosions, there's like time travel and space travel and all of that kind of stuff. And I think you could make it like a sick action film. If you know the plot of Outer Wilds, hopefully that makes more sense. If you don't, yeah, more or less the sun explodes and you have to try and figure out how to stop the sun from exploding, but you're stuck in a time loop. So and there's it's a really cool concept, and the whole plot of the game gets more complex, but I can't give anything away because it's like you have to solve it for yourself. But or you could just also on the plot like I did. Or just because I want more movies with fucking Jedis in them, Jedi Fallen Order me. All over me. Let's go. Fucking yes.
Well, they've already got that main actor ready to go, because he's just the dude from Shameless. He is. It's actually him. It's the same person. It is actually him.
Fucking go.
Yeah. And do you know what I also found out the other day? He's also O'Doyle from like Click, Adam Sandler. Like the kid next door is the same dude.
Oh my fucking god!
Talking about the stereo system. Yeah, same kid, same actor. I can't remember his name,
but some ginger boy. Yeah, I reckon they would be cool. Very different, but I'm just such a slut for Jedis. Josh, what you feeling?
Cameron Monaghan. That's his name.
If it wasn't in production right now, I would have said Fallout. Like I think like there's so many ways that you could take like the storylines in Fallout games are always great.
Yeah.
And so I was like, I mean, if you leave the Minutemen out of Fallout 4, whatever, but the rest of the storylines are great. But
you don't want a TV show about helping another settlement?
No, I really don't want. I could just fucking forget about that dude forever. But
Savage.
I think the two obvious answer is like God of War. I was like that'd make for a sick game as well. But one that I would love to see made into a game is the game made into a TV show is the game Half-Life. Half-Life
yeah, that'd be sick.
is such a fucking
Why is that
amazing
familiar?
first-person shooter. It's from it was released in 1998, and basically you're this scientist called Gordon Freeman, who you're a theoretical physicist. Sorry, named Gordon Freeman, and you.
So when you say that, is he theoretically a physicist, or he deals in theoretical?
He is a theoretical. He's a physicist who deals in the theoretical.
Because I am a
10.
theoretical. I am a theoretical physicist.
Theoretically, Grant, you are a physicist, absolutely. But basically, the start of Halo is like you rocking up to work, and then you go and crack open this portal to a fucking alien land, and then the head crabs come in, and you've got to fucking fight your way out.
World head crabs.
But it's a very rich universe that they've created, and there's so many ways that you could kind of take it once you kind of break out of that. Like, at the end of it, you end up joining with like a fucking government G-man, and then in like the second one, you wake up from stasis like 20 years later because you've attracted the interest of this fucking like intergalactic dimensional empire thing. But yeah, the world of Half-Life is really, really fucking sick, and I think it would make for an amazing television show.
What about number 3?
Ooh. But the queue
I
does say.
I don't even remember what happens in number 3.
I don't think they made
movie,
it. I think
Josh.
there's just been a meme for years about Half-Life 3 being made. Like,
Yeah, because
as
that's
long
right,
as I've been on the internet, because they said that.
Yeah, because it did like Half-Life 2 Episode 1, Half-Life 2 Episode 2, and then they did Half-Life Alyx, which was like the VR version of it. Yeah, they really should make episode. Maybe the television show could be, what happens in episode 3. But dear listener, we need to know what video game, what television show, what video game would you turn into a television show or a film? Let us know in the comments below whether you're checking this out on YouTube.
We said film. It's just film this week. I'm sorry. TV
Just
show has
film.
different criteria.
Right, there you go. Margy said it here. I think you could go with either, but I think Half-Life would make a great film at the same time.
I would like them to be turned into visual media to consume. So 1,000 TikTok reels.
1,000 TikTok reels. No, absolutely not. Absolutely not. Let us know in the comments. If you're listening, if you're watching this on TikTok, you're watching this on fucking Instagram, you're watching this on
what is that?
YouTube.
Is that like 300 minutes?
Something like that.
What are they, 15 seconds out there?
Oh, let me get my calculator out.
15 seconds each, 4 to a minute.
All right, did I say 1,000?
Oh, sorry, it's 250 minutes.
Yeah.
Science.
Which is 4 hours and a bit. That's enough for a movie. That's a movie.
That's a good movie.
That's two films.
2 movies, yeah. Depends on, for a Lord of the Rings fan, that's 1 film.
Let us know in the comments. Like and subscribe. Tell your friends. If you know a nerd out there, share this podcast around. Let them know. Tag us on Instagram. We love hearing from you. We love checking it out.
Yeah.
Tell your coolest uncool friend about us.
Tell your coolest uncool friend. Find the least cool friend you have and let them know about this podcast.
And if you don't know anyone, that just means you're the coolest uncool friend.
So much about my life makes sense.
On that note, we'll catch you next week.
We love you. What am I doing with the hands? I went to do this, but I just did this instead.